Hey beautiful people, live podcast with Lainey Chait or Electro Girl.
Hello.
So yeah, you can come in and out as you please. We're just going to be recording here, and you can throw questions out there. Maybe we'll get to them later, maybe not. But we're generally going to ignore you and just talk to each other. So come along for the ride. All right, we're good. Hey Lainey.
Hi Mason.
We're back.
We are.
We tried again, but it was retrograding too hard that day.
For both of us, my little thing that I'm going to bring out malfunctioned, and I fixed that because of retrograde, which is good.
And I had for the first time ever I'd hit record, and then I'm going to blame the laptop and the fact that that just didn't record. So all right, but good. We're off and running again.
We are.
You're an interesting, it's just an interesting person. Everyone's had a little bit of an intro, but do you want to just get everyone caught up on who you are and what you're working on?
So this book is part of a bigger, this was actually the start of it. So I wrote this book because I was diagnosed with epilepsy at 19 and I just wasn't prepared to accept that I had it. I was just not interested in knowing that my brain was going to work against me to live a normal life, yeah? So this is like a dialogue around my journey and of basically how I came to deny it, rebel against it, accept it, and then use supplementation and even products of yours, which is why I want to, been so interested to talk to you. About how to control and manage the seizures and the brain farts with a holistic approach, not just throwing pills into my face.
How long did you get swept up in this is your new normal?
I hid it for the first 4 years in my teenage years. I was too afraid to tell anyone about it. At that stage, I had the seizures that were just kind of jerking and just like jerks and maybe hiccups and things like that. But I hadn't had any tonic-clonic seizures, the big fall to the ground seizures and, the scary ones that people are often scared about. It was only when I started drinking and dating and introducing, teenage stuff into your life that you're just not prepared for really, that the big seizures started to happen. So at 19, my mum saw that going on, and then it was like 7 years of doctors.
Because you call it's like silent.
Silent disease, I think.
Diseases, yeah. I mean, I was like, is disease even there? But yeah, that's, I guess, kind of appropriate based in the West.
Invisible illness.
Yeah, the invisible illness. Yeah. It's a little bit more gentle.
It is.
Because that's like you bringing it up in like reading your email. And I was like, yeah, and I know like maybe a couple of people that have told me, that in the past they dealt with their how they dealt with their epilepsy. But just the walking around. Well, you have a sign, you have a sign on telling people that at any point you're going to be going into a fit. You can't do that. So how does your life get affected?
Well, I guess for me, luckily, because there's 40 different types of epilepsy, right? Which I didn't know that at the time. I just thought there was the small ones called absence seizures, where you just like kind of like your brain just shuts down for a second, and you have like a minute, maybe 2 minutes, where you're just out, but you're not jerking or you don't drop or anything like that. They're called absence seizures. So I did have a few of them when I was younger, but for me, it's all been about the big grand mal tonic-clonic ones. So I saw my first seizure in hospital when they did all the tests and I had to stay inside and get my head all like, they had a big turban with EEG and I was hooked up to a machine and so I was about 19 when that happened, and I saw and heard my first seizure from someone else in hospital doing the same thing. And from that moment on, my ego and myself went, there's no way, there is absolutely no way I'm going to let anyone see me like this. No way. It's too scary.
Stopped heading out?
No, I just hid it. If I felt like I was going to have one, I'd fuck off and do it alone. Or, like risking death. I mean, it was my ego was stronger than my logic to get help or tell people and the fact that I kind of intuitively knew that it was an emotional, that I created it. I know that's weird to say because it developed at 14 when my parents got divorced. It's not really in my family history. And the triggers that still align now are still about stuff to do with abandonment, stuff like that, you know. So if I'm in certain situations that trigger me, they're still wired in there somewhere. Even though as an adult, I've totally dealt with all of that logically and, you know, done cathartic everything's but somewhere in the wiring, there's still that little faded memory of something to do with what triggers them, you know, that I still find really hard to break. Yeah, it's really interesting.
That still set you off?
Yeah, but it's not everything. It's just certain things. So, like flashing lights, that's not my type of epilepsy.
Yeah, right.
So I myth bust in this as well. I do comedy about epilepsy. That was actually, I know you do comedy. One of the reasons I started to do stand-up was that I wanted to do a 45-minute show on making epilepsy funny, you know, because when you're living it, that was the way that I found that I could get over it, you know, understand it, break through it, because otherwise it will destroy you. Actually, it's a pretty shit condition.
How did you within yourself you made it funny, or did you did you become like make it like if I'm going to embrace this so it's not embarrassing, I'm going to like tell everyone in a comedic way that I'm dealing with this.
Okay, here's a joke I made up. So why did the chicken cross the road? Why did the epileptic chicken cross the road?
It's already funny. Yeah. Why?
Because it couldn't fit on the sidewalk. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny, you know. It's just anyway. The epileptic. I think that's it. Yeah. Mm.
Do people, the other people with epilepsy get offended by you taking the piss out of it, or have you got a hall pass?
I think in this world of PC, way too PC, I've definitely got a hall pass. I got a hall pass as a comedian to being a woman, so I can say anything I like about being a woman. Epilepsy and being Jewish.
Are you Jewish as well?
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
So I've got passes in comedy.
It's like, you know, it's like Watley the dentist in Seinfeld going for complete immunity.
Yeah.
Like complete comedy immunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and becoming a Jew was the last one, I think, for him.
That's right. I remember that. That's that. Yeah. So I don't know. I think the hall pass is out of respect because I'm allowing people to understand it rather than be scared of it. So the jokes that I make about it is more about looking at it from a perspective of, I don't need to be scared of that then, okay. And all the things that you can swallow, you know, that there's a stigma or a myth that you can swallow your tongue. Like, you've got to bring light to that because it's so not, it's just impossible to swallow a tongue. Just connect it. So the myth is swallow the tongue, but actually, because it falls back into the mouth, it blocks the airways, and that's when the trouble can happen. So it just will, as a muscle that's limp, block the airway.
What about treatment-wise? What were you told the rest of your life was going to look like after you got diagnosed?
Medication forever.
Yeah.
No late nights, no parties.
Is this at 14?
No, that I hit it.
You hit it from like everyone, even medical profession.
Everyone. It was my little dirty little secret, but I didn't know what was going on. So it's in the book though. It's very interesting. So yeah. So
everyone listening, we've gone live on Instagram as well. But the book we're referring to, I've already mentioned it, but it's Electro Girl. But yeah, if you hear us talking to the viewers.
Yes, we've got two sides. So yeah, it was doctors. It was lots of tests all the time. It was pretty grim, and I guess being quite a stubborn personality in myself. When I was diagnosed, I just kind of went, oh, I'm caught. I've got no choice. I'll just sort of bend over for a little bit. And then the medicine it just kept being thrown one on top of the other because one wasn't enough and then another wasn't enough. And so there was a cocktail and that was creating all these comorbidities of depression and I'm like, fuck, do I really actually want to live like this when I think that it's emotional? And so I brought that to the doctor's attention and they're like, nah, it's not. It's something in your brain.
Do doctors know what emotions are?
Don't know. Any doctors out there? Just text in.
But that's a common theme. I think everyone listening to this is, not just on this podcast, probably everything that everyone's listening to in this, just realizing there's that crusty institution that's so good at particular things, but then stepping outside and acknowledging, even when, I don't know whether you're an example of this, you may just say you go back to that doctor and say, hey, dead set, look at this, this happens, epilepsy happens, because of emotion, and then I deal with those emotions down the track, and I see symptomology go down, I'm just kind of putting words in your mouth, and I'll let you tell the story of what actually happened. Or it's the same, we've got friends with cancer going, all of a sudden coming back and the tumour's halved in size, and they go, oh gosh, whatever you're doing, it's the same thing. Whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. Do you want to know why? What's happening? No, absolutely not. You're an outlier. You're a bloody miracle. Yeah. But I don't want to tell anyone about that miracle because, I don't know, I guess it's fun.
Well, it's about trials. You see, they can't, and in a world of being sued, they have got the blinkers on a little bit. I mean, the involvement of CBD, maybe some doctors have gone, oh, okay, I'll just maybe 45-degree my blinkers a little bit because there is some evidence around that. But even with what you do and making claims, and I worked for the Happy Herb Company for many, many years, and it's all just about claims and what you can and can't say and what you can and can't, claim that works or doesn't work. It's so individual. So, my doctor still kind of says to me that whatever I'm doing, it's sort of like he humours me. Mm-hmm. It's like, great, that's really good. Exactly the same sort of thing, but he won't kind of give it a lot of merit.
And I guess it's not his problem either. He works within an institution that's effective in some capacity, and that's like all doctors. It's just they're not revolutionaries. If you're a revolutionary, you don't go into one of the most stagnant institutions that you can possibly go into. You just hope sometimes they're not bought into the religion of it, and they're at least to realise, this is the way we do things over here, and I hope that everyone else has the capacity to go and evolve along with us for our collective intention of keeping humanity healthy.
That's right, and I suppose they're very fix the symptom, and alternative medicine look at where the problem's coming from, and that's kind of intuitively what I decided that's the approach I wanted to take. So 7 years I gave it a go and I became a zombie. I started smoking a lot of ganja to balance out the fact that I felt like a zombie, and that just made me more zombie. And at 28 I just woke up and went, oh fuck, I can't do this anymore at all. So I did that classic stereotypical Saturn return, quit the job, left the boyfriend, bought a combi, drove up to Nimbin.
Nice. That's fitting.
Yes. You'd be wanting to say that.
Oh, that was 10 seconds ago. I was like, all right, I got one.
You'd be dying to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought there's got to be people that understand that there's another way to do this. And there was, and not long after that I met Ray and Eliza from the Happy Herbs, and it was that fate thing, and look, there's just so many incarnations of it, because I was then so committed and so obsessed with healing it, curing it though, instead of so I went all the way over the other side. I went, all right, fuck you medicine, I'm going to go over here and completely just immerse myself in everything, and I want to cure this. I want to be the first girl to cure her epilepsy, because I kept using that word cure, and that was a big mistake, Yeah.
Was the mistake, was it like really, I mean, because it is like an initiation period where, you know, the way you approach it, you come from a colonized Western medical mindset, you have to use the word cure to even get, you know, but then I think we see it a lot in the health scene as people just hang on too long and being a patient, and you're trying to work in, you know, with the natural, but with the kind of conversation from of the synthetic Western model.
Yeah.
And you hang in there too long. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I hung in there a bit, but I think the dialogue should have been more about how can I treat and manage this, because there is a part of my brain that has got a low seizure threshold. Yeah, so that part is the part of science and genetics and chemistry that I can't, that I'll never cure. Yeah.
So that was being off in Never Never Land a little too much, thinking, you know, all that data doesn't apply to me.
That's right.
That's how I was with my mum when my mum had an aneurysm.
Yeah.
And that's what it ripped me down emotionally, because I was like, no, we're gonna get her. You know, we're gonna defy the odds here.
Yeah.
And you probably did, and we did as well. But when you're that out of reality and pie in the sky and looking for miracles, it just doesn't help that much, does it?
Yeah, well, I would pay someone to heal me. That was the other thing. Like, I'd be like, here, take the money that I really should be paying rent for, or buying some very healthy food for. Take this because, wow, I think you know, I've read your thing and it said you can perform miracles, you know, in inverted commas. So I would pay just a shit ton of healers of every different modality. Moxa sticks. I mean, who the fuck can cure epilepsy with a moxa stick? Tell me.
Depends on whether they've looked at the classics. The classic Chinese text maybe has some secret little formula there.
Well, it didn't friggin' work.
No, I imagine it wouldn't. It doesn't feel like it's in the ballpark of like of moxa.
But I was just, you know, I was a little bit obsessed to do it that way. So I went all the way over that side, and things were working, but there's still the underlying problem and the story that was in my brain and the neural pathways that were leading to the seizures were still in place, and that's not, you can't outsource that, you know, you can't outsource how your brain is wired. That's the work you have to do yourself. And that's what I didn't realise in my 20s and, you know, early 30s, is that I actually had to go deep into the ugliness of when they started, why they started. I created a journal for about 4 months in my late 20s to document everything around what was happening. So I started to go, all right, maybe moxa sticks won't cure it. Let's see what actually else is going on here. So I wrote down what I ate, what I drank, who I'd slept with, did I fight with anyone, what supplements was I taking, like everything. And then got a list of, you know, actually, there's a bit of a pattern occurring here. And then started to really appreciate what I was bringing to the table, how I was making myself an epileptic, you know, how I had created this. It was, and so I've been on a journey ever since to just go from total denial and rebellion to now preaching a message of personal responsibility and what you bring to your conditions, you know. And that's why I wrote that. So you don't have to have epilepsy to get messages from this. It's actually quite across the board, but it does obviously specify my journey with epilepsy.
That personal responsibility one, I think that freaks people out. I think that's we just came out with a little, like, we're testing out having a line of apparel called Sovereign, and essentially exploring that. I think a lot of people will, you know, I think there's a lot of people looking at like the common law kind of sovereignty kind of side of things that's been hijacked over there versus the sovereignty of like to the greatest, you know, your greatest capacity to take on responsibility for what's, you know, for your reality. And I think people get confused because just if you start taking on like extreme personal responsibility, especially in a healing sense, does that mean, you know, you don't go and interact with people, you know, particular institutions? But I think not the case.
Not the case. I think you need guidance, mentors, and, you know, all that sort of stuff as well. Because also again you can overheal You know, you can get into that space where you're not living life anymore and you're just like going, oh, I shouldn't eat that because it might do this, you know. So it's this fine balance of what personal responsibility looks like to you and how you can still enjoy your life, you know. Like, I don't wear a halo. I know that the stuff that I do now that potentially will bring on some electrical, you know, unrest. But I go, well, you know what? I've done really well to be alive. I've had nearly 300 grand mal seizures, most of which were on my own. So there is a thing called SUDEP. Have you heard of SUDEP? It's an acronym. It's sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, and it happens around that age group where I chose to have just a lot of seizures.
So when you're taking personal responsibility, is that in the fact that I'm inside my body, I'm going to be ultimately the one that's going to be able to put this much time in understanding what's emotionally triggering me or what, you know, environmentally was doing it?
What foods you're eating that might be contributing to, you know, the way that your body functions.
Do you talk about what you found the pattern to be?
Yeah.
Can we get a snippet of it?
I should have got it. I should have got a few chapters, a few paragraphs
excerpts.
ready. I found that what was diet related, was obviously like sugar and too much alcohol. The way I was thinking about relationships, because it all stemmed from when my parents got divorced. There was all this abandonment story in there about men, and so I would attract that in my life, and then when I would attract men that would show kind of abandonment behaviour or things that would trigger that would just set me off incredibly. There's a type of epilepsy now called catamenial epilepsy, which I used to bring to my doctor and say, it's really weird, I just keep getting my a seizure like a couple of days before I get my period. And they're like, yeah, okay, well, you know, it's probably not related. Now it's an actual, like it is a particular type of epilepsy that's related to hormones.
Yeah, but it wasn't in the textbook at the time.
Was it?
So, yeah.
It wasn't. So hormones, so, and I didn't know it then that you could supplement certain parts of your body to compensate for that hormone change, you know, at the time that happens with, just before you
Supplementing for particular like hormonal cascades, you mean, or?
Yeah, like there's so much around now that I don't particularly take anymore, but at the time there was like perhaps can't even think of the herb that I was taking just before I got my period, just to sort of balance out that estrogen progesterone sort of imbalance that might then set. Also, internal temperature. So if you're internally hot, and that's a Chinese thing as well. If you're hot inside, then that can trigger it as well.
That'd be you can kind of like you think it could almost like pinpoint what kind of symptomology and like, you know, excess heat and excess liver heat and all those kinds of
all
things.
That, which you just, you know, unless you find the right practitioner at the right time, which I did, because when I moved here, I saw a lady called Anne Mary. She was working in the integrative Mullum, which doesn't exist anymore, her and her hubby, and she just was spot on. She did all the tests. She worked with me. I trusted her completely. We were doing collation, and you know, she got me starting to think about magnesium, and she got me starting to think about there's too much copper in my body, and all.
What a legend!
Yeah, it was like this amazing epiphany to find the right practitioner who just guided me in the right way to actually start balancing out what was going on. At the time, also. CBD wasn't even on the radar because this is like nearly 20 years ago. So I had to go looking for little backyard people.
There were a few around back then.
Back then, there was a few around, and I tell you, they lived in squalor, but it's not about their lifestyle. But the thing
look at them now. look at them.
Palaces.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing about that was there was not so much information. I couldn't get dose rate. I was experimenting big time. It backfired for me.
In what way? Just like the non-standardization?
Yeah, backfired in the fact that I was probably taking a strain of CBD that, that I was taking too much. There was no dose rates. It was kind of like, here, take this bottle and see ya.
Yeah.
No consistency in the medicine, obviously, because it wasn't really a medicine at the time. It was just, here's some. So I overdosed. Not that you can overdose, it's a really shit word.
Saturated?
I saturated myself to the point where it was the wrong strain for what I needed, and it went, and it made me more depressed and more anxious. So, and then because of that, that was the catalyst to go back to Melbourne after being here for quite a few years, and go back and sort some shit out because I was too unpredictable. Yeah, lots of amazing stories.
It's like the Wild West of treating yourself naturally back then. It's kind of on a platter. I wonder how many people though, because epilepsy doesn't. I mean, I haven't thought about epilepsy. But is it one of those ones that at the moment where people are one of the ones? I know that's insensitive, but are people immediately thinking, right, I'm going to go and get a naturopath here. I'm going to get my getting minerals tested, getting hormone panels. Like, is there any correlation there? Do you think at all in the wider population?
Definitely not. It's fear-based because of the stigma around it. It's my neurologist knows better than me, there's a lot of fear because to have a seizure takes. They say that the impact on your body of the seizures that I have, the tonic-clonic ones, is like running a 14-kilometer marathon in that 2 to 3 minutes that you're on the floor. So people don't want to experience that. It's also hard for the people watching because I've also had experiences where people watching me, there's not much they can do, and so they go internal and it becomes about them. So they get post-traumatic kind of stress, not a disorder, just at the time they're just like, fuck, that was intense and I couldn't do anything to help.
Yeah, right.
And I don't want to see that again. So,
it's like they get victimy by their own, based on their own, lack of capacity to do anything. I wouldn't say incompetence, but
just lack of knowing, I think, and having faith in themselves. Because there are people that would just be all over it, be like, yep, okay, I've got this. She'll come around in a couple of minutes. It'll be fine. Stop watching. Fuck off. Yeah. And others are like, oh my god, what do I do? Ring the ambulance. Oh, I can't deal with this, and then outsource it. But you don't actually need to do that. You just. And that's part of what my work now is about is just to educate, so that because I believe, Mason, seriously, through what's going on the planet now and how fragile the brain is, anyone can have a seizure. Like anyone with a brain, any mammal, animal, human, warm-blooded can have a seizure in the wrong environment. And at the moment, what's happening is the very wrong environment in the world. And you are considered an epileptic if you have 2 seizures. That's it. If you have 2 seizures in your life, you are then claimed by the epilepsy people.
Are there lots of different types of medication? Or is it just kind of a few standards?
There's a few standards that they rely on. There's a lot more than when I was treated 30 years ago. They're not designed specifically for epilepsy, so it's a massive guessing game. They've got their okay, you're displaying with these kinds of things, so we'll try this, yeah, and if not, we'll throw that on top. So I mean, I've heard about lots of people. I mean, I myself was on 1,500 milligrams of different drugs at one stage, and I just that was just way too much. People are on 3,000 milligrams of drugs. I mean, that may not actually in this conversation mean anything, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly. I mean, I have a friend at the moment. She was having. Well, she didn't know what what was going on for a few weeks, and then got the diagnosis of being a brain tumor, and then was told that she was having these little fits, and now she's been diagnosed as epileptic, and that's like the one medication that she's on while she's trying to find her way around that whole conversation, and seeing getting on. Are you on medication at the moment? Do you mind me asking?
I had a hip replacement this year, and
Yeah.
it was advised that I go back on a what they call a small dose, but what I call big enough.
Yeah.
For someone that's wanted to do it without it, but actually because it was the unknown, and because I've been fighting the medical industry for so long, and pharmaceutical industry, and going this time it was all just about yes, because this was all foreign to me, to be cut open and things that I hadn't experienced, so I didn't know how my brain was gonna.
Acute times like that, Western medicine comes in,
That's
just like a little bit of padding, and then but that's like what I'm watching my friend go through, just like trying to have like cool, get that little bit of padding, get that diagnostics, utilizing it appropriately, and then for the fits are one thing, and then the tumor is another,
But they all stem from the same thing, which is abnormal electrical activity. That's really all it is. That's all epilepsy is. It's abnormal electrical activity that is fueled by who knows? Like, everyone's different, I think there's a lot of people with epilepsy that are living lives that bring them on, that that are just ignoring stuff, that they maybe just too hard trauma, like. There's big dialogue around trauma at the moment.
Huge, isn't it? Yeah. It's great.
It's really interesting. And the trauma is just too deep and too dark to go into, and too painful, and so it represents in abnormal electrical activity that perhaps could be padded with dealing with some of that, like it's.
What have you found has been effective for you to go into the trauma, into the dark places?
Well, no one would ever let me do an ayahuasca journey because they were the facilitators were too nervous, I suppose, is what has been reflected back to me. So I haven't been able to journey in that way. So it's all had to be, talking, experiencing, watching, observing, understanding, and and kind of making peace with writing this book, I suppose. Yeah. I think I went to a hypnotist once, and this is past life, depending on who you talk to, this is past life stuff. Coming for me to fix it, and find peace. It was a test. It was a freaking good test, I tell ya.
It's like, thanks for that.
But it's, I think it's also, it's been such a gift, because I have a really big understanding of how you create your reality. Yeah. And when I didn't, I would be on the floor convulsing if I went against that.
I was going to ask about neurofeedback, but that's the neurofeedback, I guess, right there for you. Like, it's like a giant neurofeedback machine, which the brain is at all times. But whether you've been intentional about the way that you're creating your life or not, for you to get to go have that much of it extremely thrown in your face.
Well, recently what was interesting is that I was seizure free for a while, and then I had to move house. I had to move house 4 times within a year, and 2 weeks after I moved, each time of those 4 times, 2 weeks after I'd moved in, I had a seizure. And when I looked and analysed and maybe had a look into that, what was happening, it was more about coming back to that place that when my home was torn apart at 14, and I didn't know, and I didn't feel safe, and I didn't have a base, that made heaps of sense to me. Like, why would it happen every time I moved 2 weeks after? It's this feeling of, just instability.
Yeah, 'cause that wouldn't be, because like, I think they say that moving house is like in the top 2 most stressful things you can do. But if it was like cortisol level related, that would most likely be during the move. But no.
No, it was like, it was kind of when I was just feeling a little bit settled, and then it was just I would wake up and mine usually happen in the morning, so I would, it would happen, I'd get warning, and now I know to brace myself. I used to just go, no, I'm going to win this, not you, brain. Oh, I should, that could be a good time to bring out. So me and my brain have a dialogue. This is going to be hard for you people listening, but...
it's okay, it's got some fun voices.
Because I turned this book into a stage show, and the best way that I could explain about the dialogue between me and my brain and the relationship was to actually get a puppet made. So, of my brain. So if you could say, hello, I'm Nora. How are you? Named after Bloody Nora, which, if you're an Australian, it's very easy. So we did a show together at the Melbourne Fringe Festival, and I got her in, I had different LED lights put in her. Yeah, one's really exciting. Look at this one. Whoa, that's like...
I'm looking at Lainey's purple brain. The brain's got a hand up the clacker, and there's some big, bright, fantastic lipstick, and now it is lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, and this is the explanation of what happens in the electrical storm, like during a seizure, because there's no pathways that it can relate to, right? And then this one, you can explain that one.
Well, it's all looking connected. We look like we got some flow electrically.
There's a little bit of flow. This is more about trying to find, after a seizure, just trying to find the pathways back to what normal is. Yeah, what a functioning. So this is just kind of going, oh yeah, okay, what's that one? Where can I find how my arm moves?
What colour are we there again?
Yeah, and this is just normal. That's what you call yourself, huh? Normal. I don't think so. This is just a normal brain. So, hello. So.
And a cape at the back.
And a cape at the back. Yeah.
When was the Fringe show? Obviously, it was like 2019.
Yeah.
Maybe? Was it? Yeah. There was before.
Yeah, I'll leave her. This one's the nice one.
Yeah.
I'll leave it on that. It was 2019, and not only I made her Scottish. I don't know why. Because you're a comedian, so you push yourself, I suppose. Never been a puppeteer, so I was struggling with so many firsts. Using a puppet, being on stage and learning my lines for a 1 hour show, with dialogue between me and her. Like, it was amazing. Used lots of lines, May Mason, during that time.
Did you? Yeah.
Got off the booze. Yep.
Used
a shit ton of lines, May, around then. Yes, and it just worked incredible. Yeah.
I mean, she's wonderful. May I say so? Absolutely.
Do you want to put your hand in her clacker?
I do want to put my hand in her clacker.
So there's oh, you did? You changed it?
Oh, I changed. Oh, wow. Oh, now we're on.
Okay. He's turning me on.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever had a man's hand in my clacker.
Well. Oh no, I turned her off. Yeah. God, I have. Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Well, yeah. You gotta be.
Yeah.
You gotta be on. You need nimble fingers.
Yeah. And just So she gives me a lot of shit. Like, so I tell a story and she's like, that's not how it actually went. It's like, you drank too much and you fucked too many guys. And so anyway, I'm sorry. But
that's okay. So she's cheeky.
She's really cheeky. She's sassy.
Is that? I mean, that's I understand. Like, comedy for me has been
healing. It's been a way for me to reclaim parts of myself which I'd allowed to be swallowed up by, you know, my egoic pursuit to be something else, and also, you know, getting swallowed up in, you know, by my own stage persona. And comedy was my way to take my piss out of myself and come back down to earth. I can imagine for you, this is on a whole nother level.
It is.
Do you get that stage clarity when you're up there? You know, it's like when you're in your zone. It's like, you know, like a professional tennis player where the ball slows down and all of a sudden you can be in your show and you can be in your lines and you can be fretting about what line's coming up, but then you go above yourself and you start doing. You've got some kind of like healing and observation about what's actually, you know, making connections that are, you know, beyond. You couldn't have done it anywhere else except on stage and in the middle of a show.
Well, that's where I plan to get to. The director that did the first run with me, she was amazing. She was very lines based, and I'm on stage. I'm on stage when I can riff a bit and I can just can get off that script. I work so much better like that. But with this particular first run of the show, and if anyone's a director out there, I am looking for one because I'm looking for to really bring this back to the stage. It's a fantastic show, actually. So so I'm looking for a way to be able to have a little bit of fun with it, but a little bit off script as well, but still knowing what I want the message to be, but having a bit more of a riff with her because she's talking for all brains, you know.
Yeah.
She's sitting on a pedestal talking for all people's brains, saying, "Take care of us, just take care of us." You know, we're everything.
What are you, before we go, where are you at in practical terms? What are your favourite little brain healing activities and supplements or whatever it is?
So it's a good question. So I'm taking some CBD and I am also taking lion's mane. I am taking vitamin B12, very good and magnesium. So I kind of let myself now. Now I kind of let the supplement call me. You know, it's like, okay, well you need a bit more of this, or you know your adrenals are a bit low, so I'll go for the Jing, and you know.
You go intuitive after a while, don't you?
You do. You just do, and I mean supplements and vitamins are a bit the same with any kind of medicine. It's like you don't want to rely too much on any one thing. You want your body to sort of like get a big hit of it, and then see what it can do itself. And I'm kind of, you know, in the work that I'm doing now, can I just plug my podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I now do a podcast called Love Your Diagnosis, and what that is celebrating is every week that I have a person that's been diagnosed with something that they've found the light. They've gone on the allopathic journey and gone, oh, this might not be everything that I need. And they've done exactly what I did and have just gone and riffed with the rest of the world and alternative medicines and found ways to treat and manage, not cure, but treat and manage the stuff that's going on for them so they can live a really fun, healthy lifestyle. So yeah, if you've got a story like that, please hit me up. I'd love to have you on the podcast.
I mean, that is fascinating because that's a dark night of the soul sometimes, you know, and getting like a lot of people, it's too scary to go into that darkness, you know, to go off on your own. I mean, especially if you think that it's one or the other. You just said, you know, allopathic, going, okay, maybe that's not everything and I need to be, you know, make some other considerations. But that's huge. Again, like I'm watching a friend go through that at the moment, going like, it's either open up your brain, or take your skull off and, you know, and cut out this tumour, or go down your own route for however long. It's that moment, those crossroads. I guess you talk about those crossroads a lot.
Totally, and and all sorts of different diagnoses, you know, like and there's some gold in there for people, because I think when you get diagnosed with something like this, or something a little bit more severe than just, you know, herpes, or you know. Which is severe for some people as well. I'm not actually like saying that. I don't know why it came to my head. Oh my God. Rewind. So you know, you've got a choice when you walk out of that doctor's office. Am I going to let someone else take charge of my life, or am I going to be in the driver's seat of it? And if I have to use some medicine, great, but you know, I want to, you know, I encourage people through other people's stories to be back in the driver's seat of this. Research, that's been the message so far from everyone at the end, because I ask everyone to say a little tip for someone going through it. Research, don't take your first, you know, always go and get second opinions and be in it. Be right in it, right in it. Don't let anyone control how you look at your health and how you heal.
That's where like Western, I guess, comfort, path of least resistance, automation. That's where it can come and bite you on the ass. Like when if you've been living that life of just like just cushy Western life, and you get that first diagnosis, and you go, cool. Got no choice. This is what you do, right? Like it's a shame. It's a shame just how much we've given away that power. Not to say that we don't make a choice fully to go allopathic or whatever.
That's right. Yeah, but I think there are also a lot of people that are like, just give me the magic pill. I want to forget about. I just don't want to. I just want to get back to normal. I mean, we're seeing that today. Still, it's fear based. It just requires a lot less time to maybe take the pills, but I think at the end of the day, there's a sacrifice that you there's a sacrifice that you give over when you have that mentality of it, just throw the pills down. There is a sacrifice, whether it's stated or not. I believe there's a sacrifice you hand over when you say, give me the pills, to your overall life on this planet and living to its fullest.
It is confronting. I can see why, it's a very confronting thing, because if you do take responsibility and say, I'm fully going to make this decision, you then have to acknowledge all the other decisions that you possibly could have made, and that you don't know what the outcome is going to be. So it's not just the way that it's presented now, where you go, look, your only choice right now is whatever, chemotherapy. That's your only choice. And so people go, okay, cool, it's my only choice. I do it. And then whatever the outcome is, they're like, oh, well, wouldn't have turned out any other way. That was the only choice. Very easy, although it's hard going through something like chemo. It's a very easy way of approaching something, which is and I get it. I haven't had to be. I've watched lots of people go down that route. And it's nice, even those friends that have gone for chemo, they've gone, I know all my other options and I'm the one. I'm not doing this because the allopathic doctors are getting their kickback and all they can do is say, this is what you need to do. And anything else is unethical. They're like, I'm making that decision fully because I know. And then also that gives them the opportunity to go, well, I'm not just going to play their game. I'm actually going to be engaged with my treatment and make sure that I come out the other side alive. Yeah. But it can be harrowing to take that responsibility.
Very. And the guy that I just did a podcast with colorectal cancer, he has some incredible information about his journey. So yeah, I recommend it to everyone. Love your diagnosis. This last one, he had just incredible stuff and he's not saying chemo's a bad thing. He's just saying, in my case, I did this, and this, and I cured it.
Sounds like a legend.
Amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if your podcast will start getting featured in little doctors' Facebook groups.
As don't listen.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, you're a quack, Lainey the quack. Lainey, thanks for coming along and sharing your story.
That is my pleasure. And we're giving away a book.
Yeah, we're giving away a book. Hopefully you guys are up to date. Hopefully you're up to date on the podcast schedule and you're in time for you to go over to the Superfeast Instagram and go in the draw right now.
Ooh.
And you guys, you're onto it. You guys are on. You've look at you guys. You've been thank you so much for hanging around and watching the live. That's
yeah, that is amazing.
That is amazing. And thanks for everyone for listening. And what's the best place for everyone to find you?
Well, Electro Girl Productions is on Facebook and just Lane_star on Insta. I suppose that's probably and then private message me if you want to be part of the podcast, or if you just want to talk epilepsy, because I know it. So if you're out there, the invisible illness, it doesn't have to be so invisible. Talk to me.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mason.
Oh, nice one.
Well, that's
So,
smooth.
if anyone's got any questions now for Lainey, just before we pop off, this would be a good time, or just to show the love. That's always good.
It is good. Yeah.
All right, that's Superfeast Podcast. Boom.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Legends, absolutely love your work. Love your work too. Ciao everyone.
Wow, how many